إذاعة الجزائر الدولية، صوتنا في العالم.
With Radio Algeria International, you will not miss a single major political or economic event. Radio Algeria International, our voice in the world.
This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
The Council of the Nation has stressed that the presidential elections of September 7th will crown the democratic process initiated by the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune. The Hamas leader Osama Hamdan has said that no breakthrough has been made in the negotiation to end the Israeli aggression on Gaza, stressing that the movement is open to any proposal providing for permanent ceasefire. The State of Palestine has submitted a request for the holding of an extraordinary session of the Council of the Arab League to examine the fight against the crimes of genocide, Israeli aggression, and Israeli colonial expansion in the West Bank. Those were the major developments. Now the full news edition. Good afternoon. The President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, has sent a message of condolences to the King of Morocco, a sister country, Mohammed VI, following the death of his mother. In his message, President Tebboune said that he was saddened to hear the news of the death of the mother of the King of Morocco, offering condolences on behalf of Algerian people and his own behalf to King Mohammed VI. He also offered condolences to the Moroccan royal family, praying Allah Almighty to grant them patience and solace the overcome of the painful ordeal. The Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, Army General Said Changreha, has chaired the 70th graduation ceremony of the Warfare Studies. Subsequently, the Army General held a meeting with executive and trainee officers where he delivered an orientation address in which he underlined that the High Command of the National People's Army places hope in the human potential available to the higher school of warfare to develop the operational capabilities of the armed forces. The Army General seized the opportunity of the graduation ceremony to shed light on the importance of self-sacrifice for the homeland and of preserving the oath made to the previous generations.
Faith in the cause, self-sacrifice, and sense of sacrifice for the homeland remain undeniably the guarantee to achieve victory in the battlefield. Indeed, many modern wars have shown that the will of man prevailed over the enemy, despite his immense capacities, and the glorious November Revolution is the best example to give in this case. In this line, our country is getting ready to celebrate this year the 70th anniversary of the outbreak of the glorious Liberation Revolution, whose commemoration constitutes a link between the generations of the revolution and the generations of independence. And it also serves as an exemplary model worthy of being followed.
Meanwhile, the Army General attended a presentation relating to the assessment of the school's activities for the 2023-2024 school year, followed by the announcement of results and of the awarding of diplomas. The Speaker of the Council of the Nation, Salah Goujil, has called on the Algerian people to massively participate in the presidential election scheduled for September 7th and express their voice freely and democratically. Presiding over the closing ceremony of the 2023-2024 Ordinary Parliamentary Session of the Council of the Nation, Mr. Goujil specified that Algeria is experiencing a crucial step, just a stone's throw from a decisive presidential election, which will be an opportunity to embody democratic practice. He said the election of an opportunity to recall the achievements made since the election of Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune as President of the Republic. The Council of the Nation has stressed that the presidential election of September 7th will crown the democratic process initiated by the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, and give concrete form to the principle of sovereignty of the people, for the people, in the new Algeria. Mohamed Khatil has the details.
In a statement made on the eve of the celebration of the International Day of Parliamentarism celebrated today, the Bureau of the Council of the Nation chaired by Mr. Salah Goujil, Speaker of the Council of the Nation, said that the forthcoming early presidential elections will crown a genuine democratic process initiated by the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune. The Council of the Nation said that Algerians can only be proud of the tangible progress that has been made in the process of building the Algerian democratic experiment, which stems from the values of our society and the principles of the glorious November Revolution, reinforced by the great sacrifices of the martyrs of the national resistance and those of national duty during the Black Decade, which enabled the country to reach the stage of democratic entrenchment, far from any foreign diktat. In this context, the Council discussed the status of Algerian women, which was further strengthened by the constitutional amendment of 2020 to crown Algeria's efforts to strengthen its role in all areas, both nationally and internationally, in accordance with the provisions of United Nations Resolution 1325 and by adapting to current global geopolitical changes. At the international level, the new Algeria is striving to enshrine greater democracy in international relations and to restore the credibility of diplomacy by giving priority to negotiated and peaceful solutions to resolve conflicts within the framework of international multilateralism, in particular by taking advantage of its status as a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council. The Council of the Nation also added that it was becoming objectively obvious to all that there is a real crisis in the perception of the democratization of international relations to preserve global security and peace among those who until recently dared to give lessons but did not hesitate to restrict the most fundamental expressions of democratic practice to anyone who showed or demonstrated courage to criticize Zionist arrogance and demand the defense of the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people.
The 55th edition of the Algiers International Fair, FIA, closed on Saturday after a week of intense activities and fruitful exchanges between Algerian operators and their counterparts from more than 30 countries, which participated in this event organised under the slogan Exchange Gateway, Partnership and Investment Opportunities. Inaugurated last Monday by the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, the FIA was a new stopover which illustrates the significant progress experienced by the development in Algeria through national companies which have proven their skills and their ability to present modern and competitive products against global products in various fields. This fair was an opportunity for the President of the Republic to announce Algeria's commitment to build field hospital for the benefit of the Gaza Strip as quickly as possible. The leader at the Palestinian Hamas movement, Osama Hamdan, has said that no breakthrough has been made in the negotiation for an end to the Zionist aggression in Gaza that has been perpetrated for the 9th consecutive month, stressing that the movement is ready to deal with any proposal providing for a permanent ceasefire, a total withdrawal from Gaza, and a real prisoners exchange deal. In a press conference held in the Lebanese capital Beirut, the Hamas leader indicated that the position of the Zionist Prime Minister is still evasive and dodgy and doesn't agree on the permanent ceasefire. The representative of the Palestinian Hamas movement in Algeria, Youssef Hamdan, tells our radio more.
It
comes in the context of the different pressures applied on the movement to snatch an approval for the Israeli roadmap as it stands, whereas the occupation affirms that it does not agree on stopping the aggression against our people, nor totally withdrawing from the Gaza Strip. For this, we affirm that there is nothing new in the negotiations to end the aggression against our Palestinian people. The United States of America continues to apply information and political pressure on the movement to hold it responsible for the occupation's denial to accept Biden's proposal, whose content was welcomed on several occasions by the movement, whereas the Israeli roadmap submitted to us by the intermediates includes a total end to the aggression against the Gaza Strip.
That was the representative for the Palestinian Hamas movement in Algeria, Youssef Hamdan. The State of Palestine has submitted a request for the holding of an extraordinary session of the Council of the Arab League at the permanent delegate level, which is expected to be held this week to examine the fight against the crimes of genocide, Israeli aggression and colonial expansion in the West Bank. The permanent delegate of the State of Palestine to the League of Arab States, Ambassador Mohammed El-Haklouk, said that the request for this meeting is due to the continuation of the crime of genocide perpetrated by the Israeli occupation against the Palestinian people for almost 9 consecutive months. It also comes in the context of the recent adoption by the occupation government of a series of measures aimed at preventing the autonomy of the Palestinian state, on the ground the deepening of plans for the annexion of the occupied territories of the West Bank, as well as the expansion of colonialism and the theft of Palestinian compensation funds. The Israeli occupation forces committed 3 main massacres against families in the Gaza Strip over the last 24 hours, resulting in the documented killing of at least 43 Palestinians and the injury of 111 others. Local health authorities confirmed that the Palestinian death toll from the Israeli onslaught since October 7 has risen to 37,877 reported facilities, with an additional 86,969 individuals sustained injuries. Meanwhile, ambulance and rescue teams are still unable to reach many casualties and dead bodies trapped under the rubble or scattered on roads across the Walton enclave. The United Nations agency responsible for Palestine refugees, UNRWA, has described the living condition endured by the residents of the Gaza Strip as unbearable and extremely dire. More details in this report by Assia Bakar.
Speaking during a press briefing from Central Gaza via video link to Geneva, Louise Waterwege, spokesperson for UNRWA, expressed shock at the devastation in Khan Yunis. Waterwege, who spent 4 weeks outside Gaza before her return, said the buildings are skeletons, if at all. Everything is rubble. Despite the severe damage, people have returned to these structures, living amidst collapsed walls and makeshift coverings to shield themselves from the elements. She added that Gazans are forced to live in bombed-out buildings or camp next to giant piles of trash. The Israeli occupation has proceeded with its genocidal offensive on the Strip in complete disregard of the International Court of Justice, which ordered the Israeli occupation in a legally binding decision to hold its offensive in Rafah. The Israeli aggression has also resulted in the forceful displacement of nearly 2 million people from all over the Gaza Strip, with the vast majority of the displaced forced into the densely crowded southern city of Rafah.
Qatar today condemned the Israeli occupation's decision to expand colonies in the occupied West Bank. Assia Bakar has more details in this report.
The state of Qatar strongly condemned the Israeli occupation's decision to expand settlements in the West Bank and considered it a new episode in the series of its continuous violations of international legitimacy resolutions, especially Security Council Resolution 2334. Qatar affirmed that the occupation policy based on the expansion of settlements and the forced displacement of the Palestinian people, as well as its ongoing brutal aggression on the Gaza Strip, constitutes an obstacle to efforts aimed at preventing the expansion of violence in the region and achieving comprehensive and just peace. Meanwhile, the Kuwaiti Ministry of Foreign Affairs expressed its outrage over the Israeli occupation's decision to expand its colonial operation in the occupied West Bank. Kuwait reiterated its steadfast rejection of any colonial activities in the occupied Palestinian territories, labeling such actions as blatant violations of international treaties and deliberate efforts aimed at undermining global peace initiatives. The statement underscored the crucial role of the international community and the United Nations Security Council in holding the Israeli occupation accountable and ensuring full compliance with international resolutions on this matter. Earlier, Germany strongly condemned the Israeli occupation's recent decision to legalize 5 settlement outposts in the occupied West Bank, calling it a move that undermines efforts towards a two-state solution and violates international law. German Foreign Ministry spokesman criticized the Israeli policy of expanding settlements in Palestinian territories as a serious breach of international law. He emphasized that such actions endanger peace and security for all peoples in the region.
You're still listening to Radio Algeria International. In a significant display of dissent, thousands of activists and members of humanitarian and community organizations gathered in New York City to protest statements made by U.S. presidential candidate Joe Biden and Donald Trump regarding the unwavering support and promises to continue backing the Israeli occupation. The demonstrators voiced strong opposition to the candidates' remarks on the Palestinian issue, which they argue must be a priority for the next president to achieve stability and peace in the region. Protesters marched through several areas in Manhattan, demanding an end to the genocide in Gaza and calling for the cessation of financial and military aid and weapon shipments to the Israeli occupation, which facilitate further crimes against the Palestinian people. Additionally, activists rallied outside the fundraiser for President Joe Biden's re-election campaign, where he was present denouncing his continued support for the genocide. Polling station opened this morning in mainland France, where 49 million voters were called to the polls for the first round of the legislative elections, the first result of which will be announced around 6 p.m. GMT Algiers time, could shake up the French political landscape and pave the way for the far right to come to power in a week's time. At least 18 people were killed and 19 injured in several suicide attacks on Saturday in the town of Gwoza in Borno State in northeast Nigeria. A suicide bomber initially killed 6 people at a wedding. A suicide bomber carrying a baby on her back detonated explosives in the midst of guests who were feasting just after attending a wedding in the town of Gwoza. To date, 18 people, including children, men, women and pregnant women, have been killed in the attacks, and 19 seriously injured victims have been transported in 4 ambulances to the regional capital, Maiduguri, while 23 others are awaiting evacuation. Back to the country, the first TCL showroom here in Algiers has been inaugurated. On the occasion, our colleague Jamil Salmani met with the sales director of TCL North Africa, Mr. Jeffrey Yao, at the inauguration of the first TCL showroom. Asked about TCL objective in the Algerian market, which is already a competitive market, Mr. Yao had the following.
Yeah, this is indeed a good question. Actually, we come here, we are not only think about bringing the finished product to the Algeria and the users. We are all want to booming the job opportunities here to the people in Algeria. Like what we are doing with our partner. Since last year, we already established our air conditioning factory, and it will be in the mass production this year. And now we are also under discussion for the local manufacturer for the washing machine and the refrigerator. I'm talking about it's not like the simple assembling. It will be the deep localization. It means that the forming, the injection, this kind of process we will do here. It will be like 100% made in Algeria. I think it will bring a lot of job opportunities to the local people here.
Regarding the manufacturing of other brands in Algeria, following the Algerian government call on international brands to manufacture their products locally, Mr. Yao tells us more about it.
Yeah, thanks for your question. Yeah, like you mentioned, TCL is the leading brand in the international market, and today I want to bring some latest data. For the last year, 2023, for TCL products, in terms of television, we are the #1 globally. And for TCL brand, we are #2. And for the air conditioning, till last month, our exporter is ranked #2 globally. So talk about Algeria market. Algeria is very promising market. We can see the market size is so big, and also I believe consumers here, they are looking for the advanced technology product with competitive price. This is something we will bring to the end users in Algeria, consumers. We come here with our cutting-edge technologies and also with our competitive price, and we think we will bring a lot of things to Algeria customers.
That was the sales director of TCL North Africa, Mr. Jeffrey Yao, for Radio Algeria International. Let's recall today's top stories. The Council of the Nation has stressed that the presidential elections of September 7th will crown the democratic process initiated by the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune. The Hamas leader Osama Hamdan has said that no breakthrough has been made in the negotiation to end the Israeli aggression on Gaza, stressing that the movement is open to any proposal providing for a permanent ceasefire. The State of Palestine has submitted a request for the holding of an extraordinary session of the Council of the Arab League to examine the fight against the crimes of genocide, Israeli aggression, and Israeli colonial expansion in the West Bank. That's it for today's news bulletin. I invite you now to listen to a special program by my colleague Mohamed Khatel.
Hello and welcome to this new edition of the Health Magazine. Diabetes is one of the most threatening diseases of our time. In addition to adults, this disorder can also affect children at an early age. Type 1 diabetes in children is a condition in which your child's body no longer produces an important hormone which is called insulin. Your child needs insulin to survive, so you'll have to replace the missing insulin. Type 1 diabetes in children used to be known as juvenile diabetes or insulino-dependent diabetes. The diagnosis of type 1 diabetes in children can be overwhelming at first. Suddenly, you and your child, depending on his or her age, must learn how to give injections, count carbohydrates, and monitor blood sugar. Type 1 diabetes in children requires consistent care, but advances in blood sugar monitoring and insulin delivery have improved the daily management of the condition. The signs and symptoms of type 1 diabetes in children usually develop quickly over a period of weeks. These signs and symptoms include increased thirst and frequent urination. Excess sugar building up in your child's bloodstream pulls fluid from tissues. As a result, your child might be thirsty and drink and urinate more than usual. A young toilet-trained child might suddenly experience bedwetting. Extreme hunger. Without enough insulin to move sugar into your child's cells, your child's muscles and organs lack energy. This triggers intense hunger. Weight loss. Despite eating more than usual to relieve hunger, your child may lose weight, sometimes rapidly. Without the energy sugar supplies, muscle tissues and fat stores simply shrink. Unexplained weight loss is often the first sign of type 1 diabetes to be noticed in children. Fatigue. Lack of sugar in your child's cells might make him or her tired and lethargic. Irritability or behavior change. In addition to mood problems, your child might suddenly have a decline in performance at school. Fruity smelling breath. Burning fat instead of sugar produces certain substances, ketones, that can cause a fruity breath odor. Blurred vision. If your child's blood sugar is too high, fluid may be pulled from the lenses of your child's eyes. Your child might be unable to focus clearly. So go and see your child's doctor if you notice any of the signs or symptoms of type 1 diabetes. The exact cause of type 1 diabetes is unknown, but in most people with type 1 diabetes, the body's immune system, which normally fights harmful bacteria and viruses, mistakenly destroys insulin-producing islet cells in the pancreas. Genetics and environmental factors appear to play a role in this process as well. Insulin performs the critical job of moving sugar, glucose, from the bloodstream to the body cells. Sugar enters the bloodstream when food is digested. Once the islet cells of the pancreas are destroyed, your child produces little or no insulin at all. As a result, glucose builds up in your child's bloodstream where it can cause life-threatening complications. Risk factors for type 1 diabetes in children include family history. Anyone with a parent or siblings with type 1 diabetes has a slightly increased risk of developing the condition. Genetic susceptibility. The presence of certain genes indicates an increased risk of developing type 1 diabetes. Environmental risk factors might include certain viruses. Exposure to various viruses may trigger the autoimmune destruction of the islet cells. Diet. No specific dietary factor or nutrient in infancy has been shown to play a role in the development of type 1 diabetes. However, early intake of cow's milk has been linked to an increased risk of type 1 diabetes, while breastfeeding might lower the risk. Complications of type 1 diabetes develop gradually. If blood sugar levels aren't well controlled over a prolonged period of time, diabetes complications can eventually be disabling or even life-threatening. Those complications include heart and blood vessel disease. Diabetes dramatically increases your child's risk of developing conditions such as coronary artery disease with chest pain, heart attack, stroke, narrowing of the arteries, and so on and so forth. Nerve damaging. Excess sugar can injure the walls of the tiny blood vessels that nourish your child's nerves, especially in the legs. Kidney damage. Diabetes can damage the numerous tiny blood vessels clusters that filter waste from your child's blood. Eye damage. Diabetes can damage the blood vessels of the retina, which may lead to poor vision and even possibly causing blindness. Skin conditions, diabetes, may leave your child more prone to skin problems, including bacterial infections, fungal infections, and itching. And osteoporosis, diabetes may lead to lower than normal bone mineral density, increasing your child's risk of osteoporosis as an adult. There is currently no known way to prevent type 1 diabetes. Children who have a high risk of developing type 1 diabetes can be tested for antibodies associated with the disorder, but the presence of these antibodies does not make diabetes inevitable, and there is currently no known way to prevent type 1 diabetes if the antibodies are found. Researchers are working on preserving type 1 diabetes in people who have a high risk of developing the disease. Other research focuses on preventing further destruction of the islet cells in people who are newly diagnosed. While there is nothing you could have done to prevent your child's type 1 diabetes, you can help your child prevent its complications by helping your child maintain good blood sugar control as much as possible, teaching your child the importance of eating a healthy diet, and participating in regular physical activity, scheduling regular visits with your child's diabetes doctor, and a yearly eye exam beginning no more than 5 years after the initial diabetes diagnosis. There are several blood tests for type 1 diabetes in children. Random blood sugar test. This is the primary screening test for type 1 diabetes. A blood sample is taken at a random time, regardless of when your child last ate. Glycated hemoglobin test. This test indicates your child's average blood sugar level for the past 2 to 3 months. Fasting blood sugar test. A blood sample is taken after your child fasts overnight. Your doctor will likely recommend additional tests to confirm the type of diabetes that your child has. It's important to distinguish between type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes because treatment strategies differ. These additional tests include blood tests to check for antibodies that are common in type 1 diabetes, urine tests to check for the presence of ketones, which also suggests type 1 diabetes rather than type 2. Your child will need regular follow-up appointments to ensure good diabetes management and to check his or her A1C levels. Your doctor will also periodically use blood and urine tests to check your child's cholesterol levels, thyroid function, and kidney function. In addition, your doctor will regularly assess your child's blood pressure and growth, check the sites where your child tests blood sugar and delivers insulin. Anyone who has type 1 diabetes needs insulin treatment to survive. Many types of insulin are available, including rapid-acting insulin, insulin therapies such as Lispro, Aspar, and Glulicin. Start working within 15 minutes, peak in about 1 hour, and last 4 hours. Short-acting insulin therapies such as human insulin should be injected 20 to 30 minutes before a meal, peak in 1.5 to 2 hours, and last 4 to 6 hours. Intermediate-acting insulin therapies such as NPH insulin start working within about 1 hour, peak in about 6 hours, and last 12 to 24 hours. Long-acting insulin therapies such as insulin glargine and insulin detamir have almost no peak and may provide coverage for as long as 20 to 26 hours. Depending on your child's age and needs, your doctor may prescribe a mixture of insulin types to use throughout the day and night. As a conclusion, remember that a healthy diet and physical activity can help your children cope with diabetes type 1 and lead a normal life. And with this, we come to the end of this edition of the Health Magazine. Do join us next week for a new edition of our program with another health issue to shed light on. Goodbye for now.
Lebe Palästina, großer Zionismen. Lebe, lebe, lebe Palästina. Free Palestine! In the focus, in the minds. We are all Palestinians. Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Hela världen känner till vår jord. Och hela världen känner till vår jord.
manifester pour les Palestiniens, on les laisse crever. C'est ça qui est scandaleux.
I want freedom for the population. 2 million prisoners living in dislocation, shouting at the wall, but nothing is ever changing.
Sintonizan Radio Argelia Internacional. El diario hablado.